we are proud to be joined by Aaron Smith of Bearcat Journal of 247 Sports and the Bearcat Bounce podcast. So, Aaron, welcome to the podcast. Excited to have you on, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, let's just kind of dive into it here. Obviously, the Bearcats of Cincinnati are very similar to OU in that they've had a ton of success in the AAC, but now going to be making the jump to a little bit tougher competition in the Big 12. What are fans expecting from the Bearcats in their inaugural season in this conference?
The fans have no idea what to expect, and to be quite honest, neither do I. We have Luke Fickell, who went to Wisconsin and essentially took the entire staff for the most part. There were maybe 2 holdovers, I believe. And Ben Bryant just left the starting quarterback from the Bearcats a year ago, goes and transfers to Northwestern to finish out his career. And you have Emory Jones coming in to replace him from Arizona State. And you have Coach Scott Satterfield and his staff coming from Louisville. And the entire offense has pretty much been decimated at this point. So we have no idea what to expect.
You know, Scott Satterfield is kind of interesting to me because I feel like there's some parallels to a former Cincinnati coach in Tommy Tuberville, who OU fans are familiar with, that came from Texas Tech, in the sense that he was, and I know you probably hope he turns out a lot better than that. But the similarity I see is that Tuberville was at Texas Tech, maybe wasn't as appreciated at Tech as he was. He had a hard act to follow in Mike Leach there. Satterfield in Louisville, somewhat similar. The fans at Louisville didn't seem like they were super gung-ho about him in some ways, but now he moves to Cincinnati. What's the mood from the fan base around Satterfield as he starts off his first year there?
I mean, I think we are all right now fairly concerned just with the way that the transfer portal is right now. You lose, I think right now we have 40 something guys who've left at this point. And so you're trying to reload, not just reload at this point. It's not a reload when you're losing that many guys. You're rebuilding. And so I can't place the blame on Scott Satterfield. He was kind of given a bad hand to start off with. So I think there's cautious optimism, but you know, we're coming off of we were in the CFP 2 years ago. So, I mean, there's plenty for Cincinnati fans to hang their hat on right now. And there's a lot that this staff can use in the tool belt to recruit.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, even though you talk about the uncertainty, you know, what Cincinnati football, what that brand of football is going to look like going into this upcoming season, you know, new coaching staff, a lot of new faces on this roster from top to bottom. But, you know, let's not forget about this, OU fans. Cincinnati's coming off of a 9-4 season, 6-2 in conference play. And, you know, 3 of those regular season losses were by a combined 14 points. So even in those games where Cincinnati came up short, they were competitive, you know, from start to finish. So, you know, Aaron, Cincinnati just lost last year's starting quarterback, like you alluded to, Ben Bryant, transferring to Northwestern out of the portal. Was this a big loss in the minds of the fan base, or is this could be something where I know that Emory Jones is on roster right now, maybe a couple new guys, you know, kind of entering the fray. Is this something where Cincinnati fans are maybe a little bit more optimistic and excited about what they could expect to see from some of these new faces, or are we really just kind of wait and see at this point still?
Ben Bryant was probably largely underappreciated in his time at Cincinnati. I don't expect you guys to know this, but he did leave at one point and went to Eastern Michigan, where he started for a season as he had battled Des Ritter for the starting job, left to go start for a season, came back and actually won the starting job over Evan Prater, who is actually the highest ever recruited player for Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
And so last year there was plenty of clamoring all season long from the fan base for Evan Prater to get a chance to start. Well, Evan Prater was given that chance at the end of the season, and it didn't really go so well for him. That said, in comes Ben Bryant gets injured, which is why Evan Prater got that opportunity. And fast forward to Ben Bryant is ahead of schedule. He's in spring ball. He's looking good in spring ball. He's fighting Emory Jones for the starting position. And they're very different quarterbacks. And Ben saw an opportunity. He wants to go to the NFL. That's what he wants to do. When you are a pocket quarterback and you have a line that you're not really sure about, I don't know that that's necessarily going to give you the best chance to get to the NFL. and you have a receiving core who we don't really know much about because they're just the island of misfit toys at this point. So I understand the move. That said, the fan base I think is going. I think there's optimism again, cautious optimism for Emory coming in from Arizona State. He was a highly recruited player when he was recruited at Florida. Even at Arizona State, he was injured last year. So they're it's hard to look at those stats and know what a full season looks like. And he's in a new system now with Scott Satterfield, who likes to run the ball behind a line, who you don't really know what you have there. He's going to have plenty of opportunity to run the ball this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cincinnati, I think, is one of the most interesting opponents for OU fans to watch, not just, for the game, the matchup in September, but the entire year, because you guys are going through what OU fans will go through a year from now, a very successful program in the AAC, recruited at a really high level, better than a lot of other programs, like better classes than Texas Tech and K-State and TCU and so on and so forth. Like the Bearcats are solid there, but they're stepping up to another level of competition in the Big 12, something OU will do when they go to the SEC. And there's probably some adjustment period of kinds as you get used to the new digs and find footing potentially. At least Vegas thinks that at this point, because we just saw win totals come out. Cincinnati placed very unusually low for that program at 4.5 wins. And like you mentioned at the beginning, there's 40 new players. There's a lot of uncertainty about, like, we got a new coach, we got a new league. What are we really going to expect? I'll put you on the spot today. Like, knowing what you know now with all those unknowns, are you going to take the over or the under on that 4.5?
I'm going to have to take the over. And I say that because looking at the, somebody had dropped the estimated over-unders for every game of the season, and I think there were 6 of them that were coin flips, essentially. And if you're looking at those, there were 3 that we were heavily favored, and there were I think 6 or 7 that were coin flips. If you're into stats and you're looking at those as coin flips, when I say coin flips, I'm looking at anything that's, I think, 3.5 or less, 3.5 or less, whatever it was. Either way, but yeah, I mean, that's a lot of games to have not a huge spread total. And if you start, luck has generally been on Cincinnati's side of late, and we'll see if that continues with Scott Satterfield as opposed to Luke Fickell and his regime. You figure out a way, and when you're already kind of being gifted 3 wins between Kansas and Eastern Kentucky and
Miami of Ohio,
all you have to do is find 2 more to beat that 4.5 over under, and I'm okay with that.
And Aaron, I think one of the things that is kind of working in Bearcats' favor on that is this isn't going to be your traditional Big 12 where, you've definitely got OU and Texas, clear 1 and 2 at the top. There has been a lot of turnover, with over the course of this offseason, obviously with TCU losing a lot. Oklahoma State has kind of, been decimated with their roster and some of their coordinator changes that they've had. And, obviously you guys are going to be tested right out of the gate with 3 of your first 5, being at Pitt, Oklahoma at home. And then obviously you got to make the trip out to West Coast to take on BYU. But I think one of the things that Adam and I always get a kick out of is, we always pick 1 to 2, true road games that we always want to, partake and make it a destination trip out of. But for all the OU fans that are going to be traveling out to Cincinnati for that weekend in September, what's one thing that visiting OU fans should see or do in that area that isn't a Bengals or a Reds or a game or anything like that?
Well, first and foremost, Nippert Stadium itself is one of the oldest stadiums in the entire country. It is right in the heart of campus, and campus is set in the city. You are in an urban area, and the stadium is right in the middle of campus. You walk; it's kind of a bowl stadium. You walk down into the stadium, and it only holds 40,000, and it's loud as hell for 40,000. Most opponents, the entire time that we were in the AAC, would talk about they did not enjoy going to Cincinnati. So that's one of the things that you should check out. Outside of that, there are a ton of local breweries in Cincinnati. So if you are coming, there's a lot of good food, and I think you guys are going to be getting to the food stuff. But there are a ton of local breweries that are within a quick Uber ride away from campus. I'm not sure if you're staying downtown, if you're staying even in some of the suburban areas, but there are literally probably well over 100 breweries spread throughout the city, and there are plenty of places to go wet your palate.
Yeah. Is there kind of give an idea for OU fans, because this is totally different than Norman, where it's a college town on game days. You can tell where the center of everything is focused, but Cincinnati's a massive, massive city. So is there something maybe around the stadium, around campus or something like that, that is like your go-to spot, like for just hanging out before, after the games, or maybe like a great food spot that you would recommend that's like right there, kind of has that university flavor to it?
Uh, when you're on campus, you can tell where the tailgating is happening. It's pretty much in every garage that's right around campus. Once you cross the street and get to literally on campus, but there's also a place called the Grid that's right near the stadium, north side, where it's a giant party. I think you can actually rent out tables that are set up for you, tents that are set up for you, even as an opposing visitor. You can still rent that stuff out. You just have to do it through the website. And traditionally, I would think that you'd probably be fairly welcome. I don't know that I've walked through and seen anybody really haggling or heckling fans just walking through the tailgate. At least before the game, before the pops are really settling in. But yeah, as far as a place around the game or around the stadium for food, Adriatico's is a pizza place. It's a pretty good spot to go to. Max Pizza is another one that's a pretty good spot to go to. Those are right near campus, but they're also going to be jam-packed. So get there early if you're going to try and get there for some food. But there's plenty of spots if you can't get into one of those.
Well, one last thing here, Aaron, then we'll let you get out of here. Let me kind of tie this back to football. Obviously, Oklahoma fans very familiar with, the brand of football that Cincinnati's played over the last few years. Obviously, with Luke Fickell being there, the spread, the run and gun, high-powered, high-scoring offenses. But obviously, with Scott Satterfield coming, into this program from Louisville, what can Oklahoma fans expect when they see the Cincinnati team trot out? Is this going to be more of the spread formation, or is this going to be more of like your traditional, maybe two running backs, two tight ends type look? What should OU fans expect when we make the trip up to Cincinnati to take on this Bearcats team?
Scott Satterfield is going to run the ball. He's going to run the ball. You'll probably see, I would imagine, and this will probably happen all season long, but I would imagine that you will see 3 to 4 running backs every single game the Bearcats play.
So bet the under.
Well, I mean, and the offense isn't even going to be Cincinnati's strength. The defense is truly going to be Cincinnati's strength. The defensive line is, I think, between the 3 starters, depending on who actually gets the starts, you have roughly close to 15-ish years of experience there on the defensive line, and that's 3 guys.
Yeah. Well, a solid running game and good defense. That's a good blueprint for success. So we'll see what they can do in year 1. So, Adam, what else you got, man?
Just hearing that experience on the defensive line is going to make every OU fan jealous, because we are constantly seeking a defensive line that can do that type of work along there in the trenches. Yeah.
Dante Corleone was PFF's number 2 ranked defensive player last year. And that was behind teammate Ivan Pace, who was number 1 defensive player last year. But
wow.
Ivan Pace went to the NFL, so Dante Corleone at number 2 as a sophomore. So
damn.
Yeah. Damn. I mean, I think generally, like speaking, I think Cincinnati has a lot of respect right now, but it could definitely be more. Just based on, the talent and, like we mentioned earlier, just the recruiting and everything that has been going on for quite a while before, the Big 12 move was announced. Cincinnati was recruiting, up there with a lot of teams in the Big 12, if not much better. So there's definitely going to be a challenge for the Sooners there. And Aaron, we greatly appreciate your time and jumping on with us. I know we mentioned, you're part of the Bearcat Bounce podcast, and then you're there at bearcatjournal.com, which is a part of 247. I know a lot of OU fans are a part of that network via OU's 247 site. So I believe there's a lot of carryover there and being able to check out your work. But is there anything else that you want to shout out before the end of our interview here?
We also do a nightly show called The Nightcap. Everything can be found on our YouTube channel, Bearcat Journal. But yeah, we have a nightly show where we talk about anything that is Bearcat related. Right now, it's been not a whole lot of fun with everything going on with crazy Bob Huggins. But then we also have another show weekly on Wednesdays called the BCJ Pod that I produce. So yeah, a lot of stuff going on at Bearcat Journal.
Cool. Well, we're very appreciative of you coming on and joining us, giving us some of your time, Aaron. And, as we get a little bit closer to the season, especially game week, OU Cincinnati on Saturday, September 23rd. Hopefully we can have you back on, talk a little bit more X's and O's and what both of these two teams expect to bring to the table once college football season gets here. So, Aaron, appreciate your time, man.
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely looking forward to having an idea of what Cincinnati is at that point.